Welcome to Draconian, your podcast for news and updates in Hong Kong and Taiwan. I'm your host, William.
Hi everyone, welcome to the episode 30 of the Draconian podcast. This is your host, William. This week's episode will be about how people in Hong Kong and Taiwan are hovering above hoaxes and mis or disinformation. From what have happened in Hong Kong and Taiwan, we are seeing how these two regions are dealing with their socio-political issues differently again. If you would like to learn more about what is happening in these two regions, please subscribe to our podcast, whether you're listening from a favorite podcast app or directly from YouTube. Thanks for your continued support. So first, it's about events in Hong Kong first. So the first event is about Article 23. The Article 23 is on the verge of being passed on the end of its public consultation session, which interestingly still do not have a simplified Chinese version of it. And basically, people from the West and people who are critical of the government are basically issuing statements or basically commenting on this Article 23 as something that will basically defy or is a law that is used just to secure the safety of the regime instead of the public interest. As stated by the Hong Kong Journalists Association, the idea of public interest is not being protected within the law or within all the bill amendments, which basically translates directly into this whole thing, no one will care. At the same time, some tertiary institutions in Hong Kong are, quote, voluntarily support this change or these law amendments. This includes the Hong Kong U Medical School, the CHK Medical School, and the Chancellor of the Education University of Hong Kong. These support basically stating that basically having a statement that is written in nearly the same format basically showed how the government is desperate for support in the education sector, which is traditionally critical of the government, or basically pro democracy. And with the security bureau chief Chris Tang are also now smearing and attacking some other news outlets, which includes Radio Free Asia, by of them in spreading fear and different hoaxes. As a result, this shows how they are technically a bit desperate to secure support from the general public, or to trying to shape the discussion, the atmosphere for discussion in whole. So this basically shows how this Article 23 is developing. It's hovering. Technically, people are now in Hong Kong are just hovering across a very interesting red line. No one knows where the red line is, but everyone knows there is a red line. So everyone is now trying to push as far from basically outplaying the politically safe cut as possible, as safe as possible, which as a result brings the whole discussions or brings the voices or brings dissident voices out very little, just because of this. The next issue on Hong Kong is about a very economical situation, or is it more or less about the economy? So loans for public transport vehicles are technically being called at a record rate, or not transport vehicles themselves, but licenses are being called at a record rate due to a dropping income and a worsening financial situation for those holders. Previously, when people are discussing whether loans will be called by the government, a lot of the people within the city consider this as a hoax. But now it seems that this is much worse than expected. Where one would probably consider this as completely fake, as a basically inexistent news, no one in Hong Kong now tries to basically state that this is fake news at all. As we are seeing over 50 public lights buses, which basically is used as a support services in the Hong Kong transport industry. the loans for these licenses were being called en masse, as owners of these licenses were not able or wasn't able to pay for the fees or to pay for the loan because of dropping interest or dropping rents and dropping income, and at the same time due to the lack of support and the lack of this whole support from the general base due to actions they have done previously, including speeding, including selecting customers, and etc. As a result, the cost of obtaining one license or these public light minibus or public light bus licenses dropped from approximately 3 to 4 million down to 2 to 3 million. It dropped basically $1 million we lost per license. So if you're owning one that you are basically using it for operational purposes, while at the same time you do not have a loan on this, it's harder for your loan to be called. But unfortunately, for some red light minibuses, this is not the case, and with the loans being called, basically the bus itself was also taken out of service. At the same time, this issue seems to go over the public or over one type of transport mode. As shown, there are now over 100 cases of loans being called on taxi licenses within the city as well. This is a very dire economic situation, as basically these people are in the most supportive of the government technically. However, due to the pandemic itself, and fewer people are eager to rent a vehicle at the same time, the car rent is lower than usual, and even that doesn't guarantee your car being loaned per day. Furthermore, the loss of night life after the pandemic, and possibly also due to political reasons, as we witnessed a slower than usual rebound after post-pandemic, made some of their most lucrative transport lines, or these light bus lines, at the same time taxis, that operate mainly as late night support services, cease to be profitable and even break even. As a result, they do not generate money, or they do not generate a profit, which made their loans being called, and basically these assets being used or being in the hands of banks, which basically have no idea how to deal with them. As a result, basically from this news, it shows that how a very Hoax situation or in a Hoax situation can turn into reality in a very much short time, even when there are cases of these loans exceeding the properties or the value of these debts. It showed how dire the situation within the city is right now. So these are all news or all topics that are technically worthy of being updated. So in this week, in Wednesday, there will be a budget. There will be next year's Hong Kong budget, and also we are also continuing the Apple Daily News prosecution trials in the courts right now. So these are the updates and things that happened last week in Hong Kong, and also some quick discussions about things that will happen in Hong Kong within this week. So thanks. So these are all about news about Hong Kong. So next we will have news about Taiwan and topics about Taiwan. And technically Taiwan is much more interesting than Hong Kong right now. So next is about events that happen in Taiwan. So in Taiwan, apart from a lot of discussions about the legislatures, there are also some now food safety discussions in the top hot topic, as parties within the legislative yuan considers these as a way to attack the current government's inability to handle food safety issues. So first, food safety is handled in the table as the Legislative Yuan officially convenes for the first time for real businesses, in which the leading political parties have been arguing during their consultation or the cross-party consultation sessions on whether another day should be dedicated for the Legislative Yuan to be questioned on issues about food safety. And these argues ranges from lean meat additives to banned food additives to expired eggs. And all of these includes the Thai Sugar's pork controversy, which unfolded during the Lunar New Year holidays and heavily crushing the pork industry due to a piece of pork that everyone by now presumably considered this as a single incident, as a single lab contamination incident, instead of the additive being used directly and these additives or these contaminated meat being sold to the general public. So basically, in this whole discussion on food safety, the parties in opposition, including the Taiwan People's Party and the Chinese Kuomintang, continues to smear and continues to attack the current government's ability to deal with all these food safety issues, while at the same time, the government in power, the Taiwan's Democratic Progressive Party, argues that the executive yuan, or the executive branch of the government, should do more, not only to do things, but also in their ability to help these things, or to help to make things that people can feel, or to make things, or to let citizens within the island feel how all of these improvements benefit them. At the same time, there are also a lot of discussions about fake news, mis and disinformation, and other things, etc. However, the largest topic within last week was not about. It's still in the politics session, but it is not about how the Legislative Yuan is doing, how the Taiwan People's Party is responding to all the current news and etc. But it is about a capsized boat, and it happened in Kinmen. So Kinmen became spotlight as 4 people in a speedboat originated from China was capsized during a chase by Taiwan's own Marine Coast Guard. With the boat being capsized, 2 people died in the incident, while another 2 were rescued by the Coast Guard. So it seems to be a normal fisheries-related incident. However, after updates, it seems that this is not that simple. Instead, this may be some are using mis or disinformation or having or spreading fear by stating that one of the person who was rescued from the boat had very similar characteristics to a famed renowned Chinese PLA soldier within China. And the soldier also operates or works for not the army, but the navy. So all of these mis and disinformations include all these issues, and interestingly, Kinmen's own legislator, Chen Yuzhen, actually commented on this, urging the central government to remain restrained on this matter, asking for support, asking for how the Chinese government to really learn about how Taiwan is doing, while at the same time another KMT affiliated legislator, even the name we don't want to say it right now, smeared the Ocean Affairs Council by saying that they are basically using this incident as a way to basically spill dirty water on the Chinese government and to stir up the hatred against China. So these are the discussions within the city and within the whole thing, and it seems that although Cayman has become the spotlight, although these speedboats were not registered, they are technically can be considered as pirates. People within Taiwan are just basically trying to smear the current central government even without thorough thinking or critical thinking. So that is something that the Taiwan government may need to fix, or may need to be in more caution of, technically. So the third piece of news is a much more economical news, and this is about the Taiwan's own fab, TSMC. So TSMC opened a fab, finally had its Japan fab finished, with investments from Sony and Denso. This actually creates in first time in history, a pure fab company in Japan, where the company would not be directly involved in selling chips. At the same time, in a very interesting update, the location of the fab, Kinomen, was actually the location of fab was actually in walking distances, or is in the same city as Sony's own fab. This actually is in the is near Nagasaki, but all the discussions on the JASM, Japan Advanced Semiconductor Fab, in Kumamoto, is very near in Sony's own its own R&D base, also in Kumamoto. So this actually is a fruition, or we can say this is directly things contribute from 0 to 1 got into fruition after all the years of hardware, and basically this technically aligned with not Taiwan but Japan's own strategy of having a more diverse economy. So these are all technical news about Taiwan, and for next week we would actually need to be seeing a lot of in Taiwan. It would be some updates on this boat capsized incident, while at the same time we will be also seeing, or as of Tuesday, the discussion about Taiwan's relaxation of rules related to couples or related to the other half originating from the People's Republic of China, on how long they should be allowed to stay in Taiwan before they can become a full Taiwan citizen or being able to vote. As we are also seeing this United Front discussions, or the issues of 统一战线 United Front, or technically in some very stern opposition or stern Chinese opposition consider them as brainwashing events. There are also some more minor events in Taiwan, which including a YouTuber going to China to film and praise, and basically kept giving his praise over China and etc., while at the same time was in stern support played a major role, or is a highly vocal supporter of Tsai Ing-wen's election or re-election campaign in 2020. All these and discussions of TikTok and discussions of Chinese influence had technically just been in the center place on this whole discussion. So we hope you'll find this episode informative. If you do, please subscribe to our podcast so you don't miss any single episode. If you have any feedback, please let us know in the comments or drop us an email at william@dragonianpod.com. Thanks again for listening and your continued support. We will be back next week with more news from Hong Kong and Taiwan. Have a safe, prosperous, and happy week ahead. Goodbye.